You use Jobber to manage your jobs, and you use Stripe to get paid. And you need these systems to talk to each other. Jobber does have an app store to support third-party plugins, but Stripe is not listed. Just because Stripe is not listed in the App Store doesn't mean we can't connect it with Jobber. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to connect Jobber with Stripe using make.com. This integration is going to sync your Jobber invoices with Stripe automatically. And for those of you new to the channel, my name is Josh Jackson, and I create automations day in and day out. Here at Josh No Code, we've helped HVAC, plumbers, roofing contractors automate their businesses. So if you're looking to automate your business and your workflows, I'm dropping our information in the description below, so feel free to get in touch. And with that said, let's jump into it and review the workflows. So this scenario right here is going to create invoices in our Stripe account automatically whenever a new invoice is created in our Jobber account. And it's going to use all the data from the Jobber invoice and map it to the Stripe invoice. So let's take a look and see what this looks like. And I'll show you what the end outcome looks like in Stripe. And then I'll walk you through each module at a time in this make.com scenario so you can see exactly how it works. Okay, so we're going to create an invoice for West Test. This is our test client. Let's just go over to more actions and click on invoice, click on next step. And then let's just add a few line items here. We'll do a labor install. We will do operating system license and then security camera installation. Let's add some quantities here. So we'll leave this first one at 1. We'll make this one 2, and we'll make this one at 3. For this one, we'll make this 250. Actually, let's make this 500. We'll make this one 250. And then we'll make this, let's make this 1,000. Okay, so here you can see the subtotal, the taxes are set at 7%, and we have the total. Okay, so next thing we want to do, let's add a client message. So we'll say test message. Scroll down here, and then go pop over to make, and we're just gonna run this manually. So let's go click on run once. So now it's listening for invoice creation events. Go on over to the invoice in Jobber and now click on save invoice. Go back to the make.com scenario. You can see it's running. Okay, and it executed successfully. So now let's check Stripe and check out the invoice. So the invoice got created in Stripe. We could see that it got created in a draft status. You can see here that the total amount is $1,872.49. We can see that right here, that in Jobber is rounding it up, but we have the same exact number right here, $1,872. Then let's check out the line items. We have the title of the item followed by its description. That information all matches. And if we scroll over to the right here, we can see the quantities match 1, 2, and 3, and the unit prices match as well, 500 at 125, and then 333 and 33 cents, along with the totals. So we have 500, 250, $999.99. It's Jobber's just rounding it out to 1,000. And subtotals match perfectly. Tax, we have $122.50, and the final total. So now we're going to break down what happens step by step, starting with our trigger module. So our trigger module, new invoice, is actually a webhook. So if you go and click into it and then click here, webhook, you can see that I created a webhook event called Jobber Invoice Created. And this is essentially going to trigger the module whenever an invoice is created in Jobber. Think of a webhook like a listener. So if you click on add, this will allow us to add a new webhook. We could give the webhook a name, we could associate it with a connection, and we could specify a webhook event. So there's many different events that we could choose from. You can see that we have job-related events, we have property-related events, quote-related events, request-related events, visit-related events, and so on and so forth. But for this use case, we're gonna go with invoice. So if we just type in invoice here, you can see that you can trigger this when an invoice is created, when an invoice is deleted, or when an invoice is updated. And for this use case, we're gonna go with when an invoice is created. And then you just click on save. Now we're gonna look at the output trigger data. So if we click on this little bubble right here and open it up, we can see that we have 5 variables in a collection. We have the topic, app ID, account ID, item ID, and occurred at. So these are just details about the webhook event. The most important variable for our scenario is going to be the item ID. So you take that and then you have a module right here that basically fetches the invoice, and it fetches the invoice from Jobber using the item ID. And we need that because the invoice has important information that we're going to use later on. It has the billing address, we have the client data, we have the line items, and if we open up notes, we can see we have 3 line items here. So just opening up one of them, you can see the name, description, category, quantity, total price, unit price, and other details as well. So the next thing we need to do is we need to get the client, because we're also going to be using some client data too. So we get the client data using a client ID that we're passing. We pass that, and then it returns data about the client. So the invoices that are created in Stripe, they need to be associated with customer, either a customer that you create in Stripe or an existing customer living in Stripe, essentially. So we have this module here that searches for customers. It's going to search for the customer using the customer email address. So it's either going to say, hey, we found this customer, or we did not find this customer. And if it does not find a customer, you'll know that because it'll say total number of bundles is 0. We didn't find anything, right? After passing that email address. Now, if it did find something, this is going to be like 1. It found something. And in the output data, you're going to see the customer details. Then we go into a router, and we have 2 routes here. So either the customer was found and then does its thing and creates the invoice, creates the line items, and we're good to go. Or we're going to take the branch at the bottom, which is if the customer was not found. So in the example that we showed before, the customer didn't exist, and that's why it says 0 right here. So it took the bottom path, and it created the customer. And if we open up this module right here, we need to populate some required fields about this customer when we're creating it in Stripe. So we map the email address, company name, the client phone number, billing address details, and stuff like that. And then you can see here that, take a look at the output data right down here. We can see that Stripe created our customer and it gave it this customer ID. So if you're curious and you just want to kind of debug some stuff on your own, you take this customer ID and you go into Stripe and just make sure it matches. So here we are in that customer, Wesco, and you can see that the customer ID matches. And then we go on to the next action, which is one of the most important actions in this scenario, and that's to create the invoice. So this is going to create a shell of an invoice in Stripe, and then you need to, of course, create the line items and then associate the line items with the invoice. So we pop this open, we can see that this invoice action right here, it needs to be associated with a customer ID. You'll know that because you see this little red star here, which means that it's required. So we're taking the customer ID variable from the previous action, and we're just mapping it here. Then we have a collection method. We have send invoice or charge automatically. I just went with send invoice for the collection method. And then days until due, we either have to populate that or a due date. So I just went with days until due, just specified 0. Description, we just mapped the message variable from number 2. So if we go down here, we can see the message data is this one right here. And that's basically it. I mean, the only other thing that we did is we just hard-coded a message. Thank you for trusting us with your business. So that will populate into the footer. So we could see that if we take a look at the output data, we have the invoice ID. So again, let's just take that invoice. We can see it ends in BRMTB. Go into the invoice. This is the one we just created. And you can see here has the matching ID. So that's how we know that this was the invoice that was created. So let's go in and take a look at the next action here. So here's the thing. Whenever you're dealing with invoices, the line items are variable. You could either be creating an invoice with one line item, or you could be creating an invoice with multiple line items. So because there's variability here, you need to be able to handle that in your workflow. Now, I'll say this. If you're just dealing with one line item all the time, and I see businesses all the time that just have one line item in their invoice, then you don't need this iterator action right here. But if you're dealing with a variable number of line items, then you need to have an iterator in place. We need to create invoice line items here as the final steps, because those line items will be associated with our invoice. So taking a look at this, you can see that this one has 3. And why does it have 3? Well, it means that it ran 3 times with 3 operations, 1 for each line items. And this behavior is expected. So let's take a look at the details here, configuration. We can see here, just like an invoice line item needs a customer ID. Then we have this unit amount right here. And we have a function, we're multiplying the unit price times 100. And the reason why we do this is this description right here. You can see that it says the integer unit amount in cents of the charge to be applied to the upcoming invoice. So you have to basically take this unit amount, you have to multiply it by the quantity to get to the full amount. So in this case, we had to multiply it times 100 to get to our full amount. Then we are just mapping the quantity. And again, this is all just coming from the iterator action. Currency is, of course, going to be USD. Description, we did the name of the line item followed by a description. And then we're just associating it with an invoice ID. There's actually one more important detail. So we have tax rates. So this is a variable that we created. It's something that needs to be created in Stripe. And when you create the tax rate, you'll see that it will populate here in the dropdown. But if you have in your Stripe account, you don't have any tax rates that are created, this is just going to show up as blank. So you need to make sure that you create this in Stripe first. So let's take a look at the output data. We can see things like the obviously invoice item ID, unique ID for all the details here. So the last thing to cover here is this top route right here. And remember, it's going to take the top route when Stripe successfully finds a customer. So taking a look at the create invoice action, specifically the customer ID field, we're actually using the customer ID from module number 6. And if Stripe successfully finds a customer, all of this is going to be populated with data. So it will be successful and it will create an invoice and associate with the existing customer. Now, if you look at the line items action, same thing. Customer ID field is using the customer ID variable from module number 6. And just like that, you now know how to sync Jobber invoices to Stripe automatically. This automation is going to save you so much time and effort, and the best thing is it's completely customizable. You no longer need to go back and forth between Jobber and Stripe. And you could focus on things that truly matter in your business, like getting more clients and growing your bottom line. If this video helped you out, make sure to hit that like button so we can get this video in front of more Jobber users. If you want to see more Jobber automation tutorials, make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an update. As always, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video.